Researchers in China for the last few years have been studying an ancient cemetery at Mogu. Now this cemetery is identified with the Qijia culture and dates to around 3,700 years ago and is absolutely massive, containing the remains of at least 5,000 people. And it's from recently looking at a sample group of some of these interred people that archaeologists recently announced that they'd uncovered kind of a disturbing trend. And that is a shocking amount of violence. Now, before we go any further, I have to tell you that there's no evidence that this was a specifically military cemetery or anything like that. Like, they're not looking at the remains of a battle or anything. And yet, the level of absolute carnage shown on these remains, honestly, it actually tops a lot of the stuff that you would see in battlefield graves. For example, this man who had 18 separate stab wounds to his cranial vault. There was another man found with a huge slash across his face. Up to 55% of the adults sampled so far from this graveyard show evidence of multiple cranial injuries before their death. And not just cranial injuries, like that guy with 18 stab wounds to his noggin. Yeah, there were also chop marks found on his lower leg. And it's honestly just kind of a gruesome spectacle. So much so that the researchers sharing all this have started using a term usually used for violent criminals or serial killers, which is overkill. And as for why all of this happened, they still really don't know. Warfare or raids are still the most common theories at this point, but as for details, we're probably just going to have to wait. But they did note several interesting points that could be helpful if you want to roll this around in your head. One is that men were much more likely to get this sort of rough treatment than women were, apparently. The second point is that though these, like I said, don't seem to be, military graves or anything like that, it's clear that at least a good chunk of these people weren't just taking this abuse lying down. In particular, several of the men had defensive wounds, some of them very extreme, including multiple fractures in their hands. Also, some of them seem to have injuries that were made roughly around the same time, but coming from different directions, meaning they may have had to gang up on these people to be able to take them down. Which, okay, no matter how this turns out, and I don't care if this makes me sound like your mom, that screams bully behavior to me, and I don't care for bullies in any freaking culture or any time period. And here's wishing you, as you lay your head down to sleep tonight, the love and the strength to endure any hatred that comes your way, and the grace to show compassion yourself, even in the face of such things. And have a good night. Sleep well. I'll see you soon.